Now the purpose of doing the pourings, it's fun enough as it is, but it's not really my final purpose. I am collaging with them, and that is a lot of fun for me. So this is one that's done with the dripping method, like we just saw, where the paint is just dripping down naturally. And that's basically what this was done with. I took different drippings, and they started looking like trees to me. So I just cut out the sheets. You can just cut these with a pair of scissors, very easy, and just put them on the canvas. This is put down with matte, or you can use gloss medium, either one. The difference would be the matte medium sticks a little better, although it's not an issue. These stick on their own a lot of times. But the matte medium will reduce the shine. The gloss medium will keep that shine. If you like this really shiny surface, like you can, this was done with matte medium, but you can see how the back is very shiny, then you need to use a gloss medium. So these are ones that I put together. These are collages. This is the back of a pouring, and this is the front. This is the back of a pouring. This is the front. Now you can't, it's hard to see the way I've got them together. They almost look like they're just one pouring, but they're actually probably, oh, I don't know, maybe 10 different pourings in here that are bits and pieces collaged together, and I'll show you how to do that. This is just collage. This has got no, I haven't gone in and painted it. This one I went back in and I've painted. I've gone back in and put some darker colors in here. I've painted around the edges to give it some definition. I've added some shadows. I've highlighted some of the whites. I've integrated it. I did quite a bit of work actually, but I wanted to make it look like it was just a naturally flowing thing, but it's got a lot more work in it than it may appear at first. So I'm going to show you how to collage with these. I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about substrates, or what you can paint on. Canvas can get to be kind of expensive. There's a little bit inexpensive canvas. This is one of the Cheap Joe's canvases that's not as expensive. But if you don't have the money and you want to do a lot of work, because this is very experimental, use a canvas board. They're not very expensive. This one is $3.50. Quite often they're on sale, or you can get them by the box, and it's a great way to go. And you can frame them, so don't get discouraged, and try and figure out different ways to do a lot of experimenting, because it's really important, and this is a great product. So I'm going to use a canvas, though. This is a little bit less expensive canvas. This is another canvas that's even less expensive. Now with this, I just wanted to show you, didn't do very much to it, but this is a pouring that's done on the canvas. And you'll see it doesn't look a whole lot different, if you put them side by side, from the pouring that was done on the plastic. There's not a huge amount of difference. It sets up a little bit higher. It's a little more definition. Because the canvas has more of a texture to it, the paint doesn't move quite as much or as quickly. This canvas has been primed with gesso, which I do recommend. The gesso just keeps it from absorbing the paint. It makes the paint sit on the surface a little bit more. And you could go back in and paint on top of this, paint areas. You know, you could have a lot of fun doing it directly on the canvas, so I don't want to discount that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you real quick how you collage with these. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I'm just going to show you the basics. So you really only need your pouring. Now, usually I would use several different pourings. I would go through, look at my pourings, I would look at the fronts, look at the backs, see what I'm attracted to, and then I would look at the other pourings and see what maybe goes with them, what goes together. You don't necessarily want to use a huge range of colors. really, it's a good idea. You can use these by themselves. They can become works of art on their own. If you're a painter and you know how to paint, you could go back in and paint on top of them. One of the things about this is just the straight pouring. If you go back in and paint on top of it, some people complain that the surface is too slick for them to paint on. That's not a problem if you put a coat of matte medium on there or a coat of clear gesso on there, then you will take care of that problem. I don't have any problems painting on them like this, and I'll try and show you in a few minutes how I would go back and paint on that. But let's work on the collage. So I've got my pouring. I'm looking at both sides. Let's see which one I like better, which is really hard. But I like this part a lot, and I like this over here. So I think I'm gonna start here and cut this. And I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this because you don't want to sit and watch me for a long time. But I love the way this is happening down here. Now ordinarily I would probably take the time to put a little bit of matte medium on there so it doesn't stick, because you can see it's going to stick, but I'm not going to do that now. But if you're doing this at home and you're not experienced, it's probably a good idea to take a little extra time and put some matte medium on it, and it's probably a good idea to let it cure. This is not cured for very long at all. This pouring is only a few days old. Now I really like this area here, so I'm going to work on that. And I'm following the natural lines of the pouring, which is what I do. I try to look, when I'm doing an intuitive or process painting, I try and look and see what's already there and work with that. I'm not telling it what to do, it's telling me what to do. So now I'm going to lay these out. I like these two pieces. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. These little ends get to be tricky, but that's okay. Lay them out. So this kind of looks like maybe it should go over here. This might go over here. That's a little bit long. It's way too long actually. I usually use a bigger canvas, but I'm just going to use this little canvas for now. So let's come back in here and cut along the edge. Come back out like that. And there you go. Now that gives you almost perfect. Now we've got this. It's actually stuck there a little bit, but that's all right. Now I'm going to take this and turn it back over because the other side was really pretty too, and that would give you a really nice contrast to be using that. So I'm looking at these light colors down here, and I'm thinking what a nice contrast that is. So let's cut up some of that. And you can't be afraid about cutting these up. People always kind of freak out about that, but it's just paint. It's not even canvas, it's just paint. So I'm going to take this and see how I like that there. It's kind of nice. I like that. I don't like that edge much. So I'm going to round it off just a little bit. And you would probably want to take a little more time with this. Now, one of the things that you might do if you feel like these are sticking together, because they will if they're not cured, and you're nervous about doing something that you can't undo, take plastic, cut up some layers of plastic, or take some saran wrap or some garbage bag, not garbage bags, dry cleaner bags, and layer them in between, and then you'd put a layer so you can see through it. But I'm not worried about it, so I'm just going to stick this like this. And there you go. And I like that. Now that's going to stick on its own pretty well. It won't stick to the canvas, although if you put a coat of gloss medium on the canvas, it sure would. But at this rate, it's not going to stick to the canvas, but it's sticking to each other. Now this is not coming apart. It's there. I mean, you try to get that apart, you're going to probably end up tearing something. So it's there, but that's okay because I like it. This, I think I'm going to move. I really like these edges and I don't want to lose those. So I'm going to move this over here. This is sticking a little bit. It's all right. So there you go. It gives you your basic idea as to what's happening. I don't know if there's anything else that I want to include. Like I said, I'm not going to take a lot of time with this. This is kind of an interesting little area. Just have fun with it. I don't know, that's kind of too big through there, so I'm going to cut it off a little more. Put it like that maybe. I'm just trying to make it look very organic and like it flows together. And we're moving really quickly here. I think I'm going to cover that little area up just to give it a little more texture. And we can use this little piece somewhere. It's a really pretty little piece. Just clip the corners so it's not so straight. Stick that on there. Let me see if there's anything else that I really like. I love this little area here. Oh, it's very silky looking. I'm going to follow the natural contour of the pouring. And not sure what I'm going to do with that. That's a little bit too, need to round that off a little more. This is something you probably want to take a little bit of time with, more than I am. Now that gives you some basics as to how the collage process works. So let's, actually that's too, what was that here? That's too long. So let's see how this collage process works. You get a little matte medium. I'm going to use a recycled bowl. Matte medium. And I'm probably going to mix it with gloss medium, just because. So here's your nice new matte medium. And I'm going to mix this with gloss medium to give it a little more transparency, because I don't want to, I like the shininess. Now you can see how, where the matte medium is, where the top of this pouring was, which is through here, it's not as shiny as the bottom. So that's always, so you have some contrast there. I'm going to take a brush, I got that at Cheap Joe's. They have lots of different brushes. This brush is an inexpensive brush, which I recommend getting some nice inexpensive brushes for the collaging process, because the mediums, if you're not careful, will really destroy a brush. They get in there and they mess up. There's some brush cleaners. I don't have one with me, but I would recommend a good brush cleaner. It's worth it. And it's amazing how much, even after it's totally dried in there, a good brush cleaner will take it out. So I'm going to lift this up here, and I'm just going to slap down a bunch of medium. Not being scientific about it, I'm just basically getting it down there thickly. And then I'm going to bring it back up, use my rag, always keep a rag around, and I'm just going to press it down. And I'm going to use my fingers. If you don't like the feeling of the medium, which can be a little bit, can stick on your hands, get some rubber gloves. You can get medical gloves, but I don't worry with that. I just use my fingers. They're always covered in some kind of paint or something. So, paint on top of it. You don't have to paint on top of it, but I usually do. Make sure it gets in there. And then I just do it piece by piece. There you go. Now some people build these collages off the canvas on the side or something like that when they're doing it. Some of my students would get really freaked out at the idea of not having it exactly the way they plan it. But I don't worry about it. But if you want to build it to one side, that's okay. But I always tell them that that's probably not going to ever end up exactly how you wanted it. Don't worry about getting the medium on too thick. It's better to get it too thick than too thin. If it should, after you get finished and it's dry, if it should bubble up because you didn't get medium under all of it, you can come back in with a razor blade and slit. You have to be a little careful when you're using canvas, but slit at an angle, lift up the bubble, slap more medium down, and put it back down. Now you could do all kinds of things with these. You don't have to do any particular thing. You could cut circles, you could cut out any kind of shape you want. You could make objects out of them. You could do flowers with different petals or something like that. I'm going to use my brayer to just sort of get it down on there and make sure there's no bubbles. Work from the center out. Okay. So, where there's an overlap, you're going to have a little bit of the lifting. That's okay. So now, I'm going to take the brush one last time and just even out where I got all that stuff. Now this will dry clear, and it'll look a lot like it did initially when we first put it down. So that's the basics of collaging with the pourings.